Highlights, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. Today, we will recap the 2019 movie Snake 2. The movie starts with a group of travelers is in the middle of the ocean near Nigeria. A girl is standing on the edge of the boat, staring at the water, when out of nowhere, her father, named Gong, gives her a big scare, joking about the monsters that are in the ocean. In addition, they are celebrating the girl's birthday, and her father has decided to buy her a walkie-talkie as a present. The little girl didn't like the surprise one bit and just walks away, disappointed with the gift, while the crowd cheers as they see dolphins jumping through the waves. What no one realizes is that the animals are actually running away from a gigantic creature that is just below them. The monster crashes into the boat and knocks the entire crew to the ground, causing the ship to start capsizing. They are all slipping into the sea, and Gong tries with all his might to rescue his daughter. The man manages to jump up and hold the girl, and then sees a scary shadow passing underneath the people, which has just knocked them both into the water. Sometime later, Gong regains consciousness and realizes that he is on dry land. Many people are injured all around, but his daughter is missing. He tries to find her in the crowd, and suddenly her voice starts over the radio. That's when people notice that there are more survivors on the other side of the beach and try to call them out. Gong spots his daughter and starts to walk towards her. However, something was wrong, and he is pulled in by a man. The survivors on the other side are waving, but they don't even notice that a gigantic creature is approaching from behind them. To everyone's dismay, it was a colossal serpent, ready to attack. The creature attacks the humans and hurls them into the air. Gong tries to reach his daughter, trying not to get caught by the snake, which is devouring the survivors in a brutal way. The man continues running amidst the falling bodies, but is held back by a man again. In that instant, the little girl only had time to look at her father, and the snake devoured her with one swift attack, leaving Gong in total collapse. The giant snake swallows dozens of humans and decides to leave the area. The few survivors are devastated by the attack. They all come together and try to comfort each other after the terrible losses they have had. Gong remains desperate, but is surprised when he hears a possible signal from his daughter over the walkie-talkie and decides that he will save her, no matter what it takes. Several survivors choose to join the rescue mission. A man carrying an axe named Mao volunteers to be the leader in the hunt for the accursed monster. Some of the people leave for the hunting expedition, but the survivors who stayed behind are strangely being pulled out one by one. Only then do they realize that they are being targeted by an evil tentacle. Everyone runs away in despair except for one man, who is in such shock that he is static. The bizarre tentacle sticks to him and pulls him to a painful end. In the giant serpent's nest, she is back to spit out all the devoured humans from her stomach, forming a pile of bodies. The creature leaves the area to continue its hunt, and there we can see that some people managed to survive, even though they were swallowed. The junior captain of the ship, upon awakening, finds that it is almost impossible to escape from the nest, as the exit hole is extremely high. Suddenly, the man notices that there are still more people alive among the bodies and begins to help the other survivors, pulling them out of that frightening heap. He even finds Gong's daughter still alive. The second in command realizes that one of the survivors has found something totally frightening in the darkness. Upon approaching, it was possible to see an immense quantity of eggs. When he is about to touch the giant egg, the little girl stops him, saying that this could cause the creatures to hatch immediately. They become desperate when they realize that they will serve as food for the snakes. The old businessman picks up a rock and tries to attack an egg in a stupid attempt to hurt the monster. However, he decides to stop the attack when he feels the internal vibrations. It was the giant baby that started to break through the shell. Everyone runs in terror and hides behind a rock while the monster creeps quietly closer to them. Just as it was approaching its prey, the creature notices that there is a woman passed out on the ground and decides to change direction. The monster advances toward the woman, who is screaming for help, but no one has the courage to help her, and she becomes the snake's first meal. Gong's group follows him toward the center of the forest, chasing the tracks left by the creature, but they find only destruction and death. After hours of searching, they begin to lose track of the animal and no longer know where they are. They decide to stop and think about a new strategy. Then Mao spots a black liquid leaking from the trees around him. An old man decides to light a cigarette right at that moment and sets everything on fire, since the goo was very flammable. Mao even manages to put out the flames, but he raises a smoke that makes it difficult for everyone to breathe, and something was totally wrong in that place. Gong starts to get a strong headache and observes that everyone in the group is smiling in a devilish way, as well as the giant snake that has appeared, circling the place as the man hears his daughter's voice judging him. For not having saved her in time, a bizarre snake appears right in front of him and begins to squeeze him until he is breathless. Gong struggles to get out of the attack when suddenly a jet of water splashes in his face. In fact, he was just hallucinating due to the smoke from the goo. But it doesn't end there. The other members of the group are captured by the vines while still hallucinating, lying on the ground. They try to wake everyone up quickly and forcibly pull out the roots that are dragging them down. Almost everyone was saved except for the crewman, who was pulled up to the trunk and had his body pierced by the roots and was totally consumed. The rest of the group has no choice but to flee inside the cave of the queen's snake. The group managed to eliminate the newborn snake, but this did not stop the creature from devouring the poor, paralyzed woman. The businessman who was crushing the creature's skull gets out of control and starts yelling at everyone. He gets into a physical fight with the other members of the group, but a woman named Jian interrupts the fight, saying that they need to unite to get out of there alive. Meanwhile, the rescue team continues to search for the giant snake, and Mao prepares a powerful bamboo stick for Gong, which is sure to be useful against the monster. At the same time, Fang goes to the creek to collect water, but notices a strange situation as a dense fog arises in the air. Soon, a flying creature passes by at high speed, and the boy is shocked to see that the fallen animal is a bizarre fish which tries to attack him once more, wanting to tear a piece of his face off. But Fang manages to throw the beast away. Only an ominous noise is coming from within the fog, so we can see a rain of flying piranhas coming towards the boy. Fang desperately runs toward his group, trying to escape the nearby monsters, forcing everyone to run together. The flying shoal is gigantic and ferocious. Mao tries to attack them using his axe, but it is obviously useless. The only way out for the survivors is to hide behind trees, but Mao ends up with a piranha painfully stuck in his arm. The huge horde of fish continues to approach, and Mao also runs for cover in the trees. They then realize that the monsters only fly within the fog, so the only choice was to run away from there. The monsters continue to chase them at full speed. When they get close to the end of the mist, they jump out of the mist and escape the attacks. As they roll around on the ground, they discover that the creatures die instantly upon emerging from the evil mist, but the danger has only begun. Mao finds a giant footprint on the ground, which was certainly that of a huge monster. Nothing seemed to be around them, but a disgusting goo starts to fall on Feng's shoulder. The boy slowly looks at the coconut tree and almost faints at the sight of a giant infernal leech. Everyone is terrified at the sight of the creature. The soldier even tries to throw rocks at it, but stops his attacks when he sees a bizarre tentacle attach itself to the animal. The leech is pulled into the forest, and surely what was to come was far worse. A colossal monster leaps out and stands right in the group's way. It was a huge, tenebrous toad roaring in full fury. The survivors flee in desperation, but the frog shoots out his tongue, which clamps down on the old man with great force, pulling him away. The man tries to hang onto a tree, and his companions come back to help him, since the creature's strength was gigantic. The soldier tries to cut off the frog's tongue, but ends up burning his face with the monster's acidic spray of blood. Mao appears among the trees and, as a last resort, throws the sharp stick at the creature, hitting it precisely in the eye of the evil toad. The creature releases its prey due to the intense pain of the wound, which allows the survivors to escape. The creature leaps over the group, who run for their lives, but in its last leap, the giant amphibian is attacked while still in the air by the queen serpent. The scene was unbelievable, the giant snake swallowing a monstrous frog still alive. But after that snack, it was time for human dessert again. The group runs off into the forest, trying to escape from the new predator. The giant snake continues to destroy everything in its path. It didn't take long for the creature to catch up with the soldier and the old man, as the pair were wounded. The two jumped behind some coconut trees. The monster launches itself directly towards the men, but gets blocked between the trees. Fang tries to get the snake's attention, thus becoming the new prey. The snake tries to devour the boy, but Fang disappears and crashes into the plants. The rest of the survivors hide as well, but the giant monster is tracking the place. As he gets closer, he begins to smell the soldier's scent. The boy collapses and ends up wetting his pants. He then realizes that the snake was staring at him, which causes him to panic to the point that he asks it not to devour him. But his request is denied immediately. The group is panicked at the sight of that brutal scene, which leads everyone to retreat for the 1000th time. They advance through the woods and jump into a puddle of water, falling face first into the mud and remaining completely still. In this way, they were able to camouflage their body temperature, leaving the snake confused and making them almost invisible. The giant serpent gives up for the time being since it had lost its prey. The survivors inside the cave now begin to hear strange tremors. They immediately play dead as the creature returns to the nest and spits more victims from its stomach. The monster realizes that her baby is dead. This leaves her in a state of rage, leaving the nest to seek revenge. Everyone gets up when they realize that the danger has passed, but they see that other eggs are ready to hatch, and so more snakes begin to appear, heading towards the humans, who immediately move away and end up leaving the girl alone. What no one expected is that the snake would not devour the girl, as she tries to talk to the animal, showing the newborn creature a kind of motherly contact. Meanwhile, the group struggles bravely to get out, trying to lift the businessman to the roots of the crevice, but the damned old man kicks one of the boys, causing the snake to be alerted. The baby snake leaps over the men and captures one of them, choking him until he is completely out of breath. The businessman manages to get out of the hole but decides to escape alone and leave everyone behind. The creature finishes swallowing the boy, and the rest of the group is distraught as they know there is no way out of that frightening place. The rescue team finally finds a possible shelter in the middle of the forest and decides to explore the place. They realize that this is an old military laboratory with a skeleton of a soldier leaning against the table. After investigating some documents and books from the location, they discover that several experiments were being performed on the island's animals, turning them into mutants. Unexpectedly, Mao finds a communication device thrown among the junk and manages to make batteries with the chemical compounds to power the device. He starts sending Morse code signals, hoping that the Navy can identify them. Suddenly, the damn businessman comes running into the cabin. Everyone asks him about the other survivors. The traitor, however, says that they have all been devoured by the serpent's baby, leaving the people in complete disappointment. Gong wants to leave immediately, thinking that his daughter is already dead, but is stopped by Mao. At dawn, everyone wakes up excited to hear the sound of a helicopter. Perhaps it could be the long-awaited rescue, especially since he has just received a signal from his daughter via walkie-talkie. The group runs towards the helicopter at full speed, but the rescuers cannot see the people in the middle of the jungle. Gong tries to warn his friends that his daughter is still alive, but the businessman insists that they have all been eaten. It is hard to believe Gong in that situation. They think that the man has gone crazy, but everything changes when they hear the girl's voice over the radio. The businessman realizes that they have discovered his lies and runs away like a coward, and the old man runs after him. Gong joins the others and sets off to find his daughter and the rest of the group, but several snakes keep coming towards the girls during the chase. The businessman finds a clearing and is finally spotted by the helicopter, but the colossal snake attacks the aircraft, devouring it in a single bite, leaving the man in a state of shock. He even tries to retreat but is captured by the old man, who wants to know where the survivors are. However, the poor old man is knocked out by the bald man, who begins to press on his neck until the old man is simply out of the fight. Inside the nest, newborn snakes surround the group. However, one of the small creatures has made contact with the girl and now thinks the young girl is her mother. This is the gap they needed, and at the same time, Gong appears in the hole, screaming for his daughter. The man runs to the entrance hole of the nest and is delighted to see his daughter alive, and then throws a vine to rescue the rest of the group. The snakes are about to reach the girls, and Gong tries to pull them back with all his strength, but something frightening forces him to stop for a moment. The queen snake has returned to its nest and is right in front of the man. It leaps up to grab him, but Mao strikes just in time, piercing the animal's eye. While the monster is stunned by the pain, Gong takes the opportunity to continue pulling the girls. Mao still has to dodge the attacks of the snake, which has already recovered from the fight and darts toward the man, but Fang appears and throws a spear that goes straight into the other eye of the infernal serpent. Mao has the perfect chance to cut the roots and activate a trap that throws a huge log at the creature, but on impact, Gong also falls. The father tries to do what he can to hold on to his daughter, then the second in command heroically runs and pushes the girl underneath, taking a violent attack from the baby snakes, sacrificing himself to save the girls. Gong finally manages to rescue them. Qian hugs her boyfriend Feng, happy to see him still alive. However, before they can celebrate their victory, the monster is awake again and forces the group to retreat. The businessman, who is still trying to hide, ends up tripping over the old man's body and collapses back into the nest of snakes. The baby snakes surround him, already hungry for his flesh, and squeeze him until they brutally eliminate him. Not far from there, Gong manages to get the survivors into the open field, but Mao says it is time to stop running. The man says that he will stay with Feng to attract the monster's attention so that the rest of the group can escape safely. The snake makes its way towards the two boys. Mao follows, running against it without fear of dying, and ends up taking a blow that throws him far away. Mao recovers again and proceeds to tear the monster apart using his axe, but the attack has no effect as the man is hit by its tail once more. Gong knew that he needed to help the boys, so he tells his daughter to run away together with Jian. As soon as he gets away from the girls, he sees his friends beckoning him to run away, which makes him realize that he has made a big mistake. As he turns around, Gong sees that the monster has actually come the wrong way, and in a single attack swallows his daughter. He becomes enraged and decides to go after the cursed serpent. The man even tries to pierce it with his bamboo stick, but he is beaten so violently that he is stunned. The monster surrounds Gong and stares him right in the face, letting out a terrifying sound. Suddenly, Mao appears on the battlefield carrying a torch. With this, he is able to attract the creature's attention. Due to the high temperature, the monster starts chasing him into the forest. He runs amidst the flammable goo while the giant snake chases right behind him, getting completely drenched by the viscous liquid. This is Mao's last chance. He throws the torch at the monster that is coming towards him and sets the whole place on fire, turning the snake into a ball of fire. The monster crawls out of the forest in desperation, but ends up falling to the ground completely charred. Now the man has to run to get his daughter out of the burning monster. He grabs the girl's hand and pulls her out. Everyone rushes to help. Gong does what he can to get the girl breathing again, and when all seemed lost, his daughter finally comes back to life. This is how the movie ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.